I thought we were the hunters. But that night, the hunt began with us. The bells of San Galgano should have been silent for centuries. Yet in the ruins, I heard them. Not ringing like bronze, but cracking, hollow, like bones grinding against each other. Dust fell from the broken arches. The night pressed down, thick and hot, though the wind outside was freezing. There was a smell, burnt wax, copper, and something rotten. I knew then we weren't alone. The air tightened around my chest. I tried to breathe, but every inhale tasted like old blood. 4 soldiers. 4 little offerings. Do you really think bullets can silence a voice that prays beneath the earth? The laugh didn't echo. It split the air and hung inside my head. My hands shook against the stone. I'd fought men before, but this was no man. This was something older. And it was waiting for us. You were paid well, weren't you? That gold wasn't for your courage. It was for your blood. The voice sounded like it was right at my ear. I turned, but no one was there. Just shadows crawling along the cracked floor, stretching too far, bending wrong. My throat locked. I wanted to shout, to deny it, but nothing came out. Stop it! Please stop! The scream tore through the chamber, not mine, not his, but one of my men. His voice cracked, broken, begging in a way I'd never heard from a soldier. Boots scraped stone, then silence. No answer came back. And then, that laugh again. Lower. Closer. It filled the ruin like smoke. I told myself to move, to fight. But my knees locked and I could only stand there, listening to the sound of something ancient and patient, whispering from the cracks in the earth, waiting to claim us.
I never wanted to lead a crew again. But there we were, 4 of us sitting in a warehouse outside Houston, pretending we weren't mercenaries. We called ourselves bounty hunters because it sounded cleaner. Truth was, we took contracts from whoever paid. Cops, gangs, private suits, it didn't matter. If the money cleared, we moved. Travis Kane, that's me. Former Special Forces. I don't talk much, and when I do, it's because I've already made up my mind. Ethan Walker. We called him Jokes. He never shut up. Always had a wisecrack, even when bullets were flying. Jonas Merrick. Steady as stone. Older than me by a few years, always the balance when Ethan ran his mouth too far. And Logan Pierce. Youngest. Sharp with machines and gear. If it beeped, scanned, or jammed, Logan could make it sing. We were comfortable in the dirt. Missions blurred together. Kick in a door, pull someone out, move on. Until the letter came. It showed up through a contact in Newark, New Jersey. Plain envelope, no return. Inside, a single sheet, stamped with a crest I knew even before I let the paper touch light. The Vatican. No name, no details, just a phone number and a figure written at the bottom. The kind of figure you don't ignore. Ethan stared at it, whistled. What's next? Hunt down God himself? Jonas shot him a look. Not funny. Ethan leaned back, smirk still on his face. It wasn't a joke. I should have thrown it away, but I didn't, because I'm human, because the number on that paper could have bought us all new lives. So we called, and we went. The flight across the Atlantic felt heavier than any deployment I'd done. None of us spoke much. Logan fiddled with his scanner the whole time, running signals in and out just to hear static. Ethan leaned back and snored like it was vacation. Jonas stared out the window like he could already see what waited. Me, I tried to sleep, but the numbers kept flashing in my head. Rome wasn't new to me, but it never felt heavier than that morning. St. Peter's Square spread wide under a pale sky, tourists snapping pictures. To them, it was holy ground. To us, it was a checkpoint. We were met by Father Adrian Caruso, a man with eyes too calm, and Father Tomas Ionescu, quiet, watching more than speaking. Caruso stepped forward, his grip firm. "Your reputation precedes you." Jonas answered before I could. "We're not proud of that." Caruso smiled faintly, like he hadn't heard. He guided us through the square into a van. Hours later, hills rolled past, cypress trees cutting the horizon. And then the ruins, Abbazia di San Galgano. Walls blackened, roof gone. The abbey opened to the gray sky. Caruso's voice carried easy in the wind. "This place suits your task. You'll wait here. The target comes soon." Logan shifted, unease in his voice. "Target? What target?" Caruso didn't answer. Instead, he unfolded a slip of paper. "Rules. You'll carry weapons if you like, but it won't matter. These will keep you alive." He read them, slow. "Don't say the name Cardinal Vittorio Belandi. Don't look at any reflection after midnight. Don't light a candle at 3 a.m. If you hear a choir, don't respond. Don't leave the chamber until sunrise." Ethan let out a chuckle. "Sounds like a summer camp ghost story." Jonas frowned. "And if we break them?" Caruso's eyes stayed steady. "Then you won't last the night." The paper folded back into his pocket. That was it. No target details, no maps, just laws carved out of shadow. We should have walked away, but the number still burned in my head. The kind of money you don't refuse. That night we carried our gear down into the undercroft. Stone walls blackened by fire, a chamber cold as a grave. We told ourselves we were ready, that it was just another job. But the air felt different. It pressed close, like the ruins had been waiting. And in the silence, I started to believe the rules weren't just words. They were warnings. We set up our cots in a corner. Logan strung a sensor line across the arch. Ethan cracked another grin. "Maybe ghosts will trip the wire." Jonas sat with his rosary, fingers tight around the beads. I asked why. He gave no answer. Just kept moving the chain through his hands. The silence was heavier than words. The first night passed quiet. Only rats scratching, wind pushing at the cracks. But I couldn't sleep. I lay awake, watching candlelight bend against the stones. The chamber felt sealed. No air moving. Every breath too loud. By the second night, tension cut sharper. Logan cursed, said the sensors kept buzzing false. "Something's moving out there. I don't know what." Ethan smirked. "Bats, man. Big Italian bats." Jonas didn't smile. His eyes were hollow, red-rimmed. He hadn't closed them all night. "Don't joke about his name." Ethan shrugged. "I didn't say it." I cut them both short. "Enough. Get your head straight. We're here for work." But even as I said it, I didn't believe it. Because I'd seen Caruso's face when he gave us the rules. It wasn't faith. It was hunger. And that's when I knew we'd already gone too far. The first night inside the ruins felt ordinary enough, if ordinary meant stone dripping with damp and shadows moving where no wind touched them. We unpacked, laid our cots against the far wall, and listened. Rats scratched somewhere in the dark. A door hinge groaned in the upper levels of the abbey, pushed by night air. That was all. Enough to keep me awake, but not enough to call it anything more than nerves. Ethan whispered jokes from his cot, trying to break the silence. "Bet these rats could use a contract on us. We're the intruders here." Logan laughed under his breath. Jonas didn't. I didn't either. The air was heavy, and I kept checking my watch, counting down the hours till sunrise. By dawn, nothing had happened. We told ourselves it would stay that way. But deep down I knew better. Places like this don't stay quiet forever. The second night was different.
It started with a sound, soft, deliberate, like someone dragging nails across stone. I turned in my cot, scanning the chamber, but nothing moved. Logan sat up, adjusting the scanner he'd rigged on the table. The screen flickered with static, then froze. His face was pale in the glow. Ethan was nearest to the broken mirror, leaning against the far wall. The glass had been cracked long before we arrived, a jagged web across its face. He leaned toward it, squinting. "Hey, that's funny. My reflection just smiled at me." I looked over. He wasn't smiling. His reflection was wide, toothy, unnatural. It grinned while Ethan's mouth stayed shut. Ethan staggered back, breath sharp. "Okay, nope, that's not real." He kicked the mirror over. It cracked louder, shards scattering across the stone. Jonas rose, rosary still in his hand. "Don't play with it." Ethan barked a laugh, forced. "What, you think my twin's gonna climb out and shake my hand?" Jonas didn't answer. His eyes were fixed past Ethan, at the stairwell leading up to the abbey floor. His knuckles whitened around the beads. He didn't blink. Meanwhile, Logan cursed at his scanner. The screen lit up again, numbers scrolling, foreign coordinates. "That's impossible. This frequency doesn't exist." He smacked the side of the unit, but the glow stayed, flashing signals in and out. A voice bled through the static, not in English, not in any language I knew. Something guttural, broken, rising and falling like a chant. Logan recoiled, pulled the headset off. "It's pulling signals from nothing. That can't happen." The sound faded, then spiked again. For a second, it felt like the chant was coming from the stone itself, vibrating through the chamber floor. The candle flames bent in unison toward the scanner, like they were leaning to listen. I checked my watch, past midnight. I remembered the rule: don't look at any reflection. Ethan had already broken it. I didn't say it out loud, but the thought lodged like glass in my chest. We were inside the trap, and the rules were already moving against us. Jonas shifted suddenly. His head snapped toward the far archway. He stared into the dark, body stiff, lips parted. I followed his gaze. For a heartbeat, I thought I saw her too, veiled, pale robes, moving just beyond the torchlight. A woman, walking slow, silent. She didn't look at us, just drifted by like smoke in human shape. Jonas whispered, almost to himself, "Sister Alara." The name landed heavy. I didn't know who she was, but Jonas did. His lips trembled as he gripped the rosary tighter. I opened my mouth to ask, but Ethan cut in first. "Great! Ghost nuns! Just what we needed!" Jonas rounded on him, face hard. "Shut your mouth!" Ethan raised his hands, mock surrender. "Hey, relax! She didn't even look at us!" The room fell silent. Only the scanner hummed, faint and broken, the green glow pulsing on Logan's face. He muttered curses under his breath, trying to cut the feed, but the static didn't stop. Instead, it deepened into a low hum that rattled the glass shards scattered on the floor. They trembled like something breathing underneath them. The air smelled of iron now, the kind of metallic tang that comes after a wound. My tongue tasted blood, though I hadn't bitten down. The stone under my boots vibrated faintly, like a heartbeat pulsing from somewhere deep below. Ethan started pacing, fast, restless. "Come on, guys, it's just pressure. Old buildings do this. They creak, they breathe, that's all." Jonas shook his head, eyes burning. "Buildings don't smile at you." Logan leaned forward, staring at the tarp over his scanner. "And radios don't speak in Latin." None of us moved. The drip of water from the arches echoed like hammers. Every sound dragged too long, each note carrying weight. I rubbed my arms, shivering, though sweat slicked down my back. The chamber was both freezing and suffocating. Around 3 in the morning, the cold deepened. Our breath fogged in the candlelight. The flames themselves thinned, stretched high, trembling like they were being pulled upward by invisible strings. Ethan muttered from his cot, "Anyone else freezing? Feels like the AC's set to hell." Jonas snapped back without opening his eyes. "Pray." Ethan scoffed, trying to laugh but failing. "Pray to who?" Jonas's eyes opened then, sharp and wet in the candlelight. "Not everything is a joke." Logan finally broke his silence. His voice cracked. "We should leave, just for the night. Reset the gear outside, regroup." I cut him short. "We don't leave, not before sunrise." My voice shook more than I wanted, but I forced it steady. The rules were clear, and I couldn't tell if following them would damn us or save us. Either way, breaking them wasn't an option, not yet. The tension cut the air like wire. No one spoke after that. We just waited. The sound of dripping water echoed from somewhere above, but every drop was too loud, like the Abbey was amplifying it on purpose. My stomach knotted tighter each time. I felt the weight of the place pressing down, a pressure in my ears, a hum in my teeth. When dawn finally crawled through the broken arches, none of us had slept. We didn't even close our eyes. Ethan's face was pale, his humor running dry. Logan sat hunched, rubbing his temples. Jonas still clutched the rosary like it was the only thing keeping him upright. And me, I counted each breath, waiting for the night to end, knowing the rules were no longer warnings. They were bait, and we had already taken it. We lasted another night, but only barely. None of us slept. By the third evening, the air in the Undercroft felt thicker, charged, like the whole Abbey was holding its breath. I wanted to believe it was exhaustion. But the truth settled in my bones long before I admitted it out loud. Something down there was waiting for us. Logan was digging through the rubble near the back wall when he found it. A box, half buried, eaten by mold. The wood collapsed in his hands, but inside, wrapped in oilcloth, was a bundle of pages. I pulled them free, careful, though every instinct told me not to touch them. The Latin was faded, but still legible. Jonas leaned over, his lips moving as he read. One line stood out. I didn't need to know Latin to feel it burn. Obey the rules, and he shall rise. Ethan tried to laugh it off. Rise? Like what, a cake? You sure you're translating that right? Jonas shook his head, pale. No, it's clear. The rules aren't protection. They're invitation. I stared at the words, my stomach twisted. The rules we'd clung to. Don't look. Don't light. Don't leave. They weren't shields. They were steps. Every night we followed them, we weren't surviving. We were feeding something. The stairwell creaked. A shadow stretched long against the wall. Father Tomas Ionescu stepped into the chamber. His cassock dragged the floor, and his eyes caught the candlelight like 2 drops of oil. He didn't look surprised to see the papers in my hand. He looked satisfied. Jonas straightened. You knew! You sent us here! Tomas's voice was quiet, steady, carrying through the stones. I did, and you obeyed, as all men obey when they fear the dark. You kept the laws, and with each law, the seal weakens. Ethan stepped forward, fists tight. What the hell are you talking about? We were hired to stop something, not start it. Tomas tilted his head, almost gentle. You cannot stop what has already been promised. Cardinal Vittorio Belandi was condemned, yes. Burned for heresy,
buried for treason. But fire doesn't destroy faith. It purifies it. He waits, and you are his offering. The words slid into me like a blade. We weren't hunters. We weren't guards. We were sacrifices. Jonas took a step closer, his voice trembling but firm. You lied to us. Tomas's smile barely touched his lips. I told you the truth. You simply believed the wrong part of it. Ethan spat on the ground. To hell with this. We're not dying for your dead cardinal. Tomas finally raised his voice, sharp as a bell. He was not dead. He was transformed. Condemnation freed him from Rome. And now, with your obedience, he rises again. The chamber shuddered, faint at first. Dust rained from the ceiling. Somewhere above, the sound of a cracked bell swung once, slow and hollow. My ears rang with it. Logan stumbled back, whispering, He's insane. He's completely insane. Tomas fixed his gaze on me. His eyes were wet, fevered. And you, Captain Kane, you carry the weight. You led them down. You kept them alive. You kept the rules. You fed him. Do you not see? You've been his hand all along. The words landed heavy, and for a moment I couldn't breathe. My chest locked. I wanted to deny it, shout it back in his face, but my throat closed around the truth. Every order I'd given, stay, wait, endure, had bound us tighter to the ritual. Ethan growled, stepping closer to Tomas. You think we'll just lay down and let you cut our throats? Tomas didn't flinch. His voice softened, almost tender. It will not be your throats. It will be your souls. The candle nearest to him guttered, then flared, throwing shadows like reaching hands across the wall. The Latin on the page in my grip seemed to shift, letters bending as if they breathed. Jonas grabbed my arm, whispering fast, We have to stop this. We have to break the rules. But the weight of Tomas's words pressed deeper than Jonas's hand. Break the rules. And what? Finish what we'd started? Or unleash it faster? My mind spun with the trap we couldn't escape. Tomas stepped forward, his shadow stretching long, voice curling into a monologue that shook the stones. When Rome burned, Belandi did not weep. He rejoiced. He saw fire as God's breath. He was condemned for his vision, bound beneath this abbey so his voice would not echo again. But men cannot silence truth. It seeps. It drips. It waits. You are the final stones to fall. Your fear, your blood, your obedience. They are the chorus. And when the final note is sung, the earth will break, and he will walk free once more. He raised a hand, and the flames bent toward him. Every time you refused the mirror, he grew stronger. Every time you smothered your candle, his breath deepened. Every time you stayed in the dark until sunrise, his chains loosened. You gave him what he needed, not by disobedience, but by faith. By obedience. You did not resist him. You served him. Logan shook his head, whispering, That's backwards. That's not how rules work. Tomas smiled wider. That is exactly how rules work. They are never for you. They are for him. The silence after was worse than the words. I could hear my own pulse in my ears. The others shifted, boots scraping stone. But no one spoke. The candlelight dimmed as if the room itself was exhaling. Ethan's voice cracked first. Desperate. Screw this! We're leaving! Now! Jonas caught his arm. If we leave before sunrise, it's over. You heard the rules. Ethan shoved him off. The rules are the damn problem! Logan's voice cracked as he finally spoke. Then what do we do? If the rules kill us, and breaking them kills us faster, what's left? Tomas answered for me, his lips curling. There is nothing left. Only him. I stared at the pages in my hand, at the ink that refused to stay still. And for the first time since we'd arrived, I admitted the truth I'd been pushing away. We were never meant to survive this. The chamber broke open the moment Thomas's words faded. At first it was a drip, faint, steady. Then the walls themselves began to bleed. Red seeped from the cracks in the stone, running in threads that thickened into streams. The smell hit us like rust and smoke, sharp in the throat. Candles bent and snapped, their flames climbing high and splitting like claws. The first crack echoed through the chamber. A mirror shard left on the ground trembled, then split apart again. And then, like a ripple, every surface, glass, steel, even the gloss of wet stone, fractured with the sound of breaking ice. We were surrounded by reflections that weren't our own. Ethan screamed first. His mirror twin pulled itself free of the shard on the floor. It rose, grinning, its eyes black hollows. He staggered back, shouting at it. "That's not me! That's not me!" The double moved the same, but slower, more deliberate. Every gesture stretched and wrong. Ethan swung at it, his fist passing through. But when the thing reached back, his cheek split open like he'd been struck. He fell, clutching his face, screaming louder. Jonas dropped to his knees, clutching the rosary tight. His voice rose in prayer, fast, urgent. "Pater noster, qui es in caelis," but halfway through the words bent. His own voice warped, twisting into Latin I didn't recognize, guttural, sharp. It wasn't Jonas anymore. It was something using his mouth. His eyes bulged with terror, even as his lips kept chanting. Logan scrambled to his gear, dragging the scanner free, flicking switches. The screen flared bright, then filled with sound, not static, laughter. High-pitched, endless, the laughter of children, overlapping, echoing. Logan tore the headset off, but the sound poured from the machine itself, filling the chamber with shrill joy that didn't belong here. He screamed back at it. "Shut up! Shut up!" The walls groaned. I stumbled back as more blood spilled, the floor slick beneath our boots. From the stairwell above, more shadows fell. Father Caruso stepped into the chamber, flanked by 3 others. Their robes were torn, soaked with ash. Their faces shone with sweat and ecstasy. Caruso lifted his hands. "Brothers, it is time." Ethan tried to lunge at him, but the mirror double blocked his path, grinning wider now, teeth too long. Jonas's voice rose higher, his prayer turning into shrieks of Latin. Logan smashed the scanner against the wall, but it only grew louder, the children's laughter swelling until it drowned my thoughts. Caruso's voice cut through. "You were never guards, you were gifts, and gifts must be opened." The ground shook, the chamber seemed to expand, the ceiling pulling higher, shadows lengthening. Shapes moved in the walls themselves, hands pressing out from the bleeding stone, clawing to break free. Ethan swung wildly, screaming at his double. "Get away from me!" But each blow landed on himself, wounds opening where his fists should have struck. His face split, blood spraying. He fell, his mirror twin kneeling over him, pressing its black mouth to his. The scream that followed wasn't human. Jonas crawled toward the altar stone, his body convulsing with the force of the chant ripping out of him. His rosary burst apart in his hands, beads scattering like black pearls across the floor. He looked at me once, eyes wide, tears streaming. Then his jaw snapped open wider than it should have, the sound that poured out shaking the air. His tongue blackened, curling, until his body collapsed. Nothing left but the chant echoing without him. Logan turned to me, desperate. "Do something! Do something!" But what could I do? Every movement felt slowed, the air thick as tar. I saw Caruso step closer, his lips moving, whispering words I couldn't hear but felt under my skin. The other priests joined, their voices blending with Jonas's, with the laughter, with the cracking stone. A choir born of madness. I staggered forward, trying to reach Jonas, but the floor split between us. Blood bubbled up, hot, steaming, burning my boots.
Figures rose in the crimson flow, faces stretched in silent screams before collapsing back under. Ethan was gone by then, consumed by his reflection. His body slumped to the floor, empty, while the double stood in his place, grinning with teeth sharper than glass. Jonas's chest had caved from the force of the chant, his body nothing but slack flesh. Logan dropped to his knees, clutching his ears, his own scream lost in the chorus of children. Caruso's face glowed with rapture. "The seal is open! The cardinal rises! Witness!" The chamber convulsed. The stones bent like they were breathing. Every shadow merged, forming one vast shape towering against the broken wall. And within it, a voice deeper than all others spoke, layered and endless, filling every corner of the ruin. "At last!" The voice wasn't only sound, it was pressure, heat, memory. My eyes blurred. I saw visions of fire sweeping Rome, men burning alive with smiles carved into their faces. The blood on the walls pulsed in rhythm with the voice, spraying in jets that soaked us. Logan shrieked as it coated his skin, searing him like acid. He clawed at his face, screaming until his throat shredded. "Please, no, please!" Caruso stepped toward me, serene in the carnage. "You see now, resistance is vanity. Your men are not lost, they are changed. They are his now." I tried to speak, but the air cut sharp as glass in my throat. I wanted to strike him, tear the smug calm from his face. But my body froze, trembling against the weight of the voice filling the chamber. The mirror double that wore Ethan's face turned toward me, smiling wider. The laughter of children twisted into the wail of a choir. Blood surged, drowning the floor. Jonas's prayer still echoed, warped into a chant that wasn't his. Logan thrashed on the ground, his voice fading into gurgles. I realized then the corruption wasn't just killing us. It was rewriting us. Piece by piece, we were being folded into the hymn. Caruso spread his arms, tears cutting through the blood on his cheeks. "Belandi has returned, and through him we take the throne of heaven." The shape in the wall surged forward, and the air split with the sound of 1,000 voices crying as one. When the corruption tore the chamber apart, I knew only one choice was left. The rules had been our prison, every command a chain tightening around us. If obedience had fed him, then defiance was the only blade I had left. At 3 a.m., I struck. I lit a candle where none should burn, then crushed it flat against the stone. The flame hissed, smoke twisting upward like a scream. My voice followed it. I called his name. I shouted it, ripping my throat open. "Cardinal Vittorio Belandi!" The chamber cracked in fury. The voice that had filled us reeled back, shrieking. Blood sprayed harder from the walls, but the shadow form wavered. Caruso screamed at me, his hands clawing the air. "You damn fool! You'll undo everything!" Jonas staggered forward, his body broken, but his eyes still clear for one last moment. He gripped the altar stone, whispering what strength he had left. "I'll hold him." The shape turned on him, massive, endless, its mouth opening wide enough to swallow the chamber whole. Jonas pressed both hands to the stone, chanting not in Latin, not in prayer, but in a raw scream that tore his body apart. The shadow lunged. He stood in its path, and the force ripped him open, light spilling from his chest, pinning the cardinal's spirit in place. I moved then, pulling the last weapon I had. My rifle was useless, but the pages weren't. I jammed them into the blood on the ground, pressing until the ink soaked crimson. The words writhed, then burned, fire racing across the parchment. The chamber roared in pain. Belandi's voice bellowed. "I am eternal." I forced the words out, steady, sharp. "No, you're caged." The light collapsed inward, Jonas screamed once, then was gone, consumed in the binding. The shadow form shuddered, dragged back into the cracks it had split open. The walls screamed as they sealed. Blood dried black, the laughter of children cutting out mid-breath, and the abbey began to fall. Stone split. The roof that had been gone for centuries now rained down in fragments. Columns snapped like bones. Caruso and the others tried to flee, but the collapse buried them, their cries lost beneath tons of rock. I ran. I didn't think, I only moved. My boots skidded on wet stone, breath ripping in my lungs. Behind me, the roar of 1,000 voices sank back into silence. I don't remember how I got out. One moment I was in the chamber, the next I was crawling through rubble, coughing dust and blood. The night air hit like ice, sharp and clean. The abbey fell behind me, half its walls giving way in a cloud of stone. By dawn, the ruins were still smoldering. I didn't go back. I couldn't. There was nothing left to save. My men were gone. Ethan consumed by his reflection. Jonas burned in light. Logan drowned in laughter. Only me. Always only me. Days later, the news came. A radio in Florence, a newscaster's clipped Italian. Translation scrolled across the bottom of the screen. Police have eliminated 3 armed terrorists hiding in the ruins of San Galgano. 1 fugitive remains at large. I stared at the screen until the words blurred. Terrorists. That's what they called us. And the Vatican had made sure of it. Caruso's lies had already wrapped around the truth like chains. My brothers were erased, reduced to a headline. And me? I was the fugitive, the monster, the one to be hunted. I wanted to scream, to tell them what really happened. But I didn't. Because who would listen? The Vatican writes the script, and the world believes it. So I disappeared. I moved through streets where no one knew my face. I changed names, burned papers, slept where no one looked twice. But every night, the sound returns. The laughter, the chanting. The voice that said, "At last." And I know what waits under the ruins, because Jonas didn't kill him. I didn't bind him. We only forced him deeper. The seal is weaker now than ever, and when the last stone crumbles, he will rise again. That's what I carry. Not the scars, not the blood, the truth. And it's heavier than any weight I bore in war. I'm not free. I am hunted. By Rome. By their priests. By the shadow that still whispers through my dreams. And the world doesn't know. They think it's over. They think the abbey fell silent. But silence is just another kind of waiting. They call me a fugitive. They paint my face on warnings and screens. They whisper my name in stations and checkpoints. But none of them know the truth. They can't. The Vatican has already written the ending for them. We were the villains, the heretics, the terrorists in the ruins. I know better. I know what waited under San Galgano. I know what Caruso and Tomas tried to pull into the light. And I know what still whispers when I close my eyes. I walk cities now like a shadow. I don't stay long anywhere. I keep my head low, change clothes, change trains. I sleep in places no one cares to look. But no matter where I go, I hear it. The echo. Sometimes in the rattle of pipes in old apartments. Sometimes in the static of radios I don't touch. Sometimes in the silence between my own breaths. The sound of a choir that never stops singing. I tell myself I'm still fighting, that by staying alive I deny them, that I carry the truth forward. But the truth is heavier than any rifle I carried in war. It grinds me down, night after night. My men are gone. my brothers erased. And all that's left is me, a ghost with a pulse. And maybe that's what they wanted. Maybe the sacrifice never ended. Maybe I'm not outside the circle at all. Maybe I'm still inside it, walking it out until the day it closes. There are nights when I almost let go, when I think about stepping into the open, letting them take me, letting their story erase me once and for all. But then I remember Jonas, his face when the light ripped through him, his voice when he told me to hold fast. I remember Ethan's laughter breaking into screams, Logan's hands tearing at his ears. They deserve more than silence. So I keep walking. I keep breathing. I keep carrying the story even if no one listens. Because somewhere, in the ruins, the chant has never stopped. It moves in the cracks of the stone. It seeps through the roots of the earth. It waits in the silence between prayers. And one day,
When the last barrier falls, they will finish what they started.
that is not a warning. That is a promise.